Hey everybody, what's up? It's Steve Van Tassel, and I'm here with Jay Pounds, and it's the Dynasty Owner podcast for. We're doing this on Thursday afternoon, the 21st. What's up, Jay?
Hey, how's it going, Steve? How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How are you? You just had a big vacation.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Sucks to be home, but we're here. We're here and kicking it. So
Excellent. Well, you got a couple of days off, man. You can't complain about that.
yep.
I mean, Jay even took the week off of writing for Dynasty Owner, so this was like a real, actual, apparently real vacation.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We went down to Gatlinburg with the whole family, and there was stuff to do for everybody there. Man, there was not one person in the entire family that was bored. We had probably 12 or 13 people there, and
Oh my God!
it
Wow.
was a lot of fun.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of people to keep entertained. Good for you. Good for you. All right. Well, enough about Jay's vacation. As folks know, if you're listening for the first time, this is the Dynasty Owner podcast. Dynasty Owner is Dynasty Fantasy Football. With a few different things, we have an actual salary cap, and we use actual NFL contracts and salaries. So, if you have an interest in this, or you haven't heard us before, you're just listening for the first time, you can check it out at dynastyowner.com, or you can check us out on Twitter, and that's at dynasty_owner. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. And you can, if you want to listen, Jay and I, this is our third podcast. If you want to know a little bit about Dynasty Owner and how it's different and some of the intricacies about it, you should check out the first podcast to learn more about it, find out all the ways that we're different. But the basics, we're basically Dynasty with the salary cap and player contracts, like real player contracts, not like DraftKings made up player contracts, like weekly. They change weekly. I mean, you get their contract for the whole year, and they have to kind of pay their money, so to speak. So it's great. So anything I should be mentioning for that?
Just it's a very authentic GM feel. It's the closest you're gonna get to being able to assemble an actual NFL roster from what I've seen. I haven't found anything that even halfway resembles the NFL game until I played Dynasty Owner, and it's a lot of fun. They've found ways to make it very very simplified. So it's not as confusing. It's just a lot of fun. I highly encourage you guys to check it out.
Cool. Well, if you're new, thanks for listening. If you're a returning Dynasty owner, Jay and I, you've heard this a bunch. So, but the last shout out we're going to do is that this is our last podcast, or at least probably we might record before the NFL draft, but next week is the NFL draft. And part of that is that Dynasty owner is doing the first round draft challenge. And basically, it is a contest you enter. And if you pick a perfect first round, you get $1 million, which is pretty cool. If you got to nail all 32 picks, which is very, very, very difficult. But like, people get struck by lightning and people win the lottery, so it could happen. And you pick up $1 million for the thing. So if you're a Dynasty owner, you just log on with your credentials that you usually go to Dynasty Owner on. And if you're new to Dynasty Owner, you just can sign up real quick. And it's I think it's draftpickchallenge.com. So, and then there'll be prizes. I don't know what the prizes are, but there'll be prizes for whoever wins but doesn't get a perfect first round. I mean, what do you think, Jay? How many picks do you think somebody's going to get right?
Oh man, I'd say 10 at the absolute most is what
Yeah,
my guess would be. And I think that's still a little high, to be honest.
10 was about honestly, 10 to 12 was going to be my limit. I think if you get past that, you are doing pretty dang good. Because I mean, you look at these mock drafts and you could look at some of them. I mean, they're wrong at like pick 3.
Yeah. If you hit 10, 12 picks, I got some lottery tickets I'll let you scratch off.
Exactly. You probably take home some cash. I mean, Dynasty Owner did NCAA tournament bracket, and the winner won $500.
Yep.
So, I mean, just for picking an NCAA tournament bracket, it was a he. I forget his name, but he won $500. So, for doing nothing more than picking a bracket. So, I mean, pick this. You maybe $500 is the first place prize, and if you go perfect, you get $1 million. So, it's pretty awesome. So, but like I said, we're in the off season here in Dynasty Owner. We've got a lot of updates about our off season, and our off season's different. Jay and I've talked about this before. My other Dynasty leagues, I mean, nothing's happening. People might be paying attention, might check it out and stuff like that. But There's no waiver movements. There's nobody picking up anything. I mean, once the draft kicks in, people start to think about it. But here in Dynasty Owner, I mean, we've been going for a month. It's been a month of activity because of the free agency. And our salary cap was announced. We use 70% of the NFL salary cap, and the NFL cap this year is 208.2 million. So ours is 145.74 million. And so yesterday, Jay hasn't heard this, but yesterday Tim announced on the live stream that we do on Wednesdays at 4 on YouTube that every team is under the salary cap now. A few of them had to be made by the commissioners because people didn't get their act together. They renewed their teams, but they didn't get their act together and get under the cap. So, as a public service announcement, I will recommend checking your league free agent auction and the news and activities tab there, and check out and see if anybody got dropped who probably shouldn't have got dropped because their owner didn't get under the cap. I had one league where I think it's a great move. I'll give myself a pat on the back on that, and we'll talk about that one later. But if you're listening to this and you pay attention, go check it out. You don't know. Somebody may not have gotten under the cap in your league, and somebody may have gotten dropped.
Yeah, I had a league where Chris Godwin, Mike Williams, Brandon Cooks, and there was one more high end receiver that was all cut. And I believe it was by we ended up to have to do it.
Yeah,
But
that had to be. I mean,
it's crazy. Those are the types of guys you can get luck out and pick up for a couple million dynasty dollars, and it'll make all the world of difference this season for your roster.
Exactly. So yeah, no, I had a similar one. I wasn't in one of those leagues. A couple of my leagues had cuts. My beta league didn't, and then I don't think the writers league. I think everybody in that one got under.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah, but then there were a couple of other ones where people didn't. So, the commissioners went in and they made some cuts, and to get people under, they didn't cut everybody. They just made it so they were under the cap. So. But the second thing, in addition to that, so now everybody's under the cap. So now you can't go, nobody can go over. And now it's time to start thinking about rookie drafts. And here in Dynasty, it's a little bit different. Jay and I were talking before we came on, and we were talking about maybe doing a mock draft with rookies. But the problem is you can't really do that now in Dynasty Owner because you don't know their salary. I mean, I was looking at things, and if you think about it, I saw one mock draft. We'll just mention Malik Willis this is kind of an extreme example, but it's an example. I saw one mock draft where somebody had him going as the number 2 pick to Detroit. At that point, his salary is just under 10 million. It's like 9.9 and change. I saw another mock draft because I was looking at a bunch of them where somebody had him go at number 32 pick to Detroit. So if you're in a regular Dynasty league, you don't care. Who cares if he goes 2 or who cares if he goes 32? He's on Detroit. It doesn't make a difference. Dynasty Owner, that's a huge difference. The 32nd pick is about $3.6 million a year, 4-year contract. So that's like $6.3 million difference. So if you want Malik Willis and you want him on the Lions, you wanted it to be taken 32nd and not second.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a gigantic difference. And that's why it's hard for us to kind of discuss rookie drafts because you have to know where the player goes. And, it makes some effect in regular Dynasty in terms of drafting, but you could draft now in a regular Dynasty league and do okay. You might get a few guys wrong. You might have wished they went to a different spot, but, they're still playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
And, but in Dynasty Owner, that's a big difference. I mean, Kenny Pickett, he could go 6 to Carolina. He could go 20 to Jay's Steelers. The difference in that is like $7 million to like $4 million. It's $3 million difference. It's a lot.
Yeah, it really is. And then think about the top 5 wide receivers. They're projected to go in all sorts of different orders from what I've seen. So it's depending on which one you like, it's gonna make a huge difference at where they land. I've seen them going as early as like 8 or something like that, and as late as the end of the first round with these top 5 guys. And it's if you can get if you love Treylon Burks and you can get him 32nd, you're gonna be in love with that pick. So it's just the salaries of it and everything. You're spot on that.
Yeah, and you could love Treylon Burks a lot more at 32 than you do at 8 in our format because
you
you might
lying.
like him, but like you don't really like him.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different. So, and then obviously, so that plays into, so now if you're under the salary cap, it's 145.74 million. You're under the cap, but now you've got rookie draft picks, and we have a 3-round rookie draft. And so, you could have 3 picks, 1 picks. You could have a ton. I know, doesn't Bryce have like 16 or something? There's one guy in one league, he has like 16 picks or something. It's a crazy amount.
Yeah, I know. I know. In 2023, he has 9 first-round picks, and it's in the league I'm in. I ended up buying into that league a couple weeks back. And yeah, he ain't lying. He's got nine
Yeah,
2023 first. It's unbelievable.
9 out of 12. That's so, like, he's got 3/4 of the first round. So, but he's going to have a lot of room to take those players, because you got to use your salary. So last year I wrote an article about how much room you need for salaries. And it's kind of hard to do it this year. People keep asking, especially because of the salary cap. They want to know, like, now, what room should I leave? And, the honest answer for me is really, it depends. It depends on how many picks you have and what you want and everything like that. But last year I did it out after the draft was over in terms of draft picks, and I came to an amount, and then I increased it about 10% because the salary caps are going, the rookie caps numbers are going up. Last year they actually went down, but this year they're going up. And so I estimated that the range for most people is like between 5.7 million and 26.4. But I really don't think most people are going to need 26 million, because last year, there was all those quarterbacks taken early. Trevor Lawrence was number 1, Zach Wilson was 2, Trey Lance was 3. You were paying those guys over $8 million a year if you wanted them. Whereas this year, if you think about it, like, Malik Willis at 2 is the highest I've seen a position player, but most mock drafts have like maybe a guy or two, like a wide receiver going in the top 10, but
Yeah.
not too many. And that's like 5 million. So, if you're talking about 9 million versus 5 million, you don't need as much room based on that. But I'll have more on that later. But that's just kind of like you just have to start. That's sort of the next step, I think. First step is just getting under the salary cap however you can and utilizing the free drops that you were able to do based on contract changes. And then now it's sort of like, okay, maybe it's a little pre-draft prepping, saying, okay, if you only have $1 million in room, you're not going to get in. You're not going to get anybody drafted. You're probably going to have to take an undrafted rookie free agent at that point. So you're going to have to make another move to get under the cap. So, and then it depends on how many picks you have. If you're Bryce and have a bunch this year or next year, you got to have a lot more than if you've got 1 3rd-rounder.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I completely agree there. There's one league where I have 1 pick this year, and it's the number 7 pick in the first round. So, and I'm only sitting at 2 million in cap space, so I still got some stuff I have to figure out there. But there's a lot of strategy that goes into it when you're trying to plan your roster for the following season.
yeah, and our rookie drafts are slow drafts, so you actually don't have to do it right away. You can kind of wait and see how that draft plays out at the 7, and then when you get on the clock, you could be like,
Yep.
ooh, I want him and he's 3 million. I got 2 million. So I got to clear $1 million out. But
Yep.
so that's what makes it a lot different. But yeah, I mean, 2 million may not be enough for 1 pick, especially since it's a first rounder, because you're kind of going to have to take somebody who's drafted in the NFL 2nd round or later at that
Yeah.
point. So, but it can be done. I mean, last year, the consensus number 1 was your guy, Najee Harris, and he was a little over 3 million, and he was the consensus number 1 pick there, ahead of Lawrence and everything. And 2 years ago, it was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because he was the last pick on the first round, and he's just under 3 million, and everybody wanted him as the first pick. So, so anything else about rookie drafts that we should be letting the listeners know about?
Just do your homework. These players are going to be on your roster for a long time outside of you trading them. So I definitely do your homework and make sure you're getting the player you want and that you like.
Yeah, and we've got Nate Christian writing some great prospect previews for us. He did one on Tuesday. He's done them every Thursday for the past couple of weeks. He's got another one coming out today. It's on Kenny Pickett. So that'll be coming out soon. It might be out before y'all listen to this, but definitely check those out. So the other thing I wanted to talk about before we kind of start getting into some other things is that we did do some salary updates. And salaries, it's been different this year than previous years. There's been a lot of adjustments. I mean, You can go way back to like Aaron Rodgers, that contract they talked about. That thing changed numbers 4 times.
Yeah.
And so, and here, like, I remember seeing a report, Adam Schefter will report that the contract amount, like, wasn't the Christian Kirk contract like 96 million for 4 years at first?
I believe so. Yeah, it was like 22 million a year on average. I remember seeing.
Yeah, and then it went down to what it actually is, which is
Yep.
a lot, 18 million, 72 million. But a big difference in our game between 22 million and 18 million. And even now, there's some changes. I saw the few of the adjustments, like a couple of guys, not really prominent, but they went down. Like Tyler Conklin, somehow his contract wasn't $7 million a year; it was like 6.75. So now it's changed again. Byron Pringle supposedly signed a $6 million contract. In reality, it's really like 4.125 million. So another way you might get a little salary cap room, check it out. Make sure you check out those salaries, see if you've got anybody, and maybe somebody you want got a little bit lower salary. AJ Green's salary just got announced. He's getting $3 million. He was $6 million last year. You might like AJ Green at $3 million a lot more than you like them at $6 million. And if you have him
Yeah.
on your roster, you just save $3 million.
Yeah, I actually don't mind AJ Green at $3 million as a kind of a bench option and things like that. Because you look at the wide receiver salaries now, they are exploding. So anytime you can get any type of value at the receiver position outside of a rookie contract, it's definitely something you got to look into.
Yeah, and with Christian, we talked about Christian Kirk a second ago. With him gone, AJ Green moves up in the pecking order in that receiver room.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
they could draft somebody or they could sign somebody else, but he, in theory, could be the wide receiver 2 last year, where he was the clear 3 at the start of last year.
Yeah. Yep. It's either got to be him or Rondell Moore outside of, like you said, them drafting somebody. But I don't know. I wasn't all that impressed with Rondell Moore last year. I know he's got a lot of potential and things like that, but I don't know. I wasn't all that impressed with him.
Okay. So yeah, so that kind of thing is changed. So, but speaking of new salaries, so we've had a ton of new salaries, and one thing that Tim provided on the live stream, and Jay hasn't heard this, though. Jay hasn't heard the live stream, so this is new to him. Is that he had the developers run the list of the most dropped players in the offseason. So basically, like the past, I think he said 45 days. So basically, the beginning of March, before like all these contracts started to be signed and uploaded, and you had to start messing with the salary cap. So people who were dropped in the most leagues. So it's not really a percentage; it's kind of a raw number. But let's play a little game here and see if Jay can guess a couple of guys. See if you can get the number one, and see if you guess a couple of guys, see if they're in the top 5 or top 10. I will say that my first guy I picked on the live stream, if you listen to it, was just outside the top 20. I was kind of surprised, but then I think my second guy was up there. So I kind of did okay, but people were guessing names, and some were right, some were wrong on the live stream. It was interesting. So let's play this game with Jay and see how he does.
I gotta go with either Christian Kirk or Zay Jones as number one. Both of their contracts are just horrendous. That's got to be my guess. And then after that, I'd say I'd go probably Tyler Lockett, Mike Williams, maybe Robert Woods. I'm trying to go with the bigger names here. Maybe Nuke Hopkins, because he had a really bad year last year. I could see him getting drops in some places.
Okay. You have not got the number one player.
No? Wow.
Nope.
Cole Beasley probably was everywhere last year. He's probably getting dropped like left and right. Trying to think. Dallas Goedert, maybe. I don't see why people would really drop him, though. Let's see. I don't know. That's kind of all I got.
Okay. All right. You missed the number one player. The number 2, I'll get the number 2 you probably wasn't going to get, but it's Dwayne Haskins, because he unfortunately passed away. And
yeah, I would have never guessed that.
Yeah,
one.
exactly. So, but the number one player is, do you have any last minute guesses on this one?
What's his position?
Tight end.
Tight end. No, there's no way people are dropping Mark Andrews. Mike Gesicki, that'd be my best guess.
No. Taysom Hill.
I forget he's a tight end.
There's a little bit of a trick. You said what position. It's like he's technically a tight end now.
Yeah. I wouldn't have got that one either.
Yeah, he was, and it was it was very much higher. I mean, he was higher than even Haskins. I think Haskins was owned in fewer leagues. So, but you hit number three, who was number three, tied for three was Cole Beasley. And did you mention Tyler Conklin from the Jets,
No,
the
I
tight end
didn't.
for the Jets? He was tied with third. Fifth was Cam Newton, which makes sense. He hasn't signed with anybody yet, and it's
Yeah.
$6 million. And he's tied with, and I was shocked at this one because is David Johnson. And I held on to David Johnson in the league, not because I think he's great or anything, but because I think he's going to sign somewhere for like $1 million. And with injuries and everything like that, he could be Latavius Murray this year, or he could be Devontae Freeman. So, I just think hanging on to him, and once his new salary kicks in, I'll get a couple $1 million savings. So I was hoping he would sign sooner, but he hasn't. But a lot of people got rid of him. And then you nailed Christian Kirk. He was tied next. He's tied with, and this one's not surprising, Antonio Brown.
Yeah, I forgot about it. I was thinking more along the lines of people that sign new contracts versus the people that haven't signed yet.
Yes, exactly. And you're right. I mean, because a lot of people will keep somebody who hasn't signed yet simply because trying to do what I did with David Johnson and game the system a little bit and keep him and get that reduced contract. I mean, let's face it, because the other thing is, since you get a free drop if they get a new contract, if David Johnson for some reason signed like a 3-year, $9 million deal, I might be like, peace out, I'm out on him. But
Right.
at least I get the free drop from that. I mean, you got the free drop when he became a free agent, but it would be another free drop then. But and number 9 is another quarterback. I'll give you a hint to see if you can get the number 9 guy.
Taylor Heineke?
No.
No.
Higher salary.
Oh, Big Ben.
No, because I don't think a lot of people owned him. No, Darnold.
Oh yeah, I was going to say Baker next.
Yeah. Yep. No, and then a little bit under him was a tie of 2 wide receivers, Cedric Wilson and Robbie Anderson.
I thought I guess with the Tyreek Hill signing, people are probably out on Cedric Wilson now.
Oh yeah, I would be completely. I mean, that signing was good for like a hot minute.
Yeah, it looked pretty for a little bit. It was like he's $7 million. He did all right in Dallas. Let's see what he's got with Mike McDaniels, and then Tyreek Hill blew it all up.
Yeah, he went from a potential 1-2 to like an automatic 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't see him getting much work at all with Jalen Waddle and Hill being there. It's got to run through them. There's no way it doesn't.
I completely agree. So my top pick, and I was a little out of left field, but I thought this contract was just egregious, was Will Disley. I mean, $8 million, 3 years, $24 million, $8 million a year to be the backup tight end in Seattle with their quarterback situation. Yeah. I just thought that was a miserable contract. And he was like just outside the top 20, but I wonder if it's because he was owned in fewer leagues than a lot of people. But Roethlisberger's there in the top 25, just outside the top 25. But I think it's also, some people probably cut him earlier to kind of grab people. So, that's why this isn't a percentage. It's just kind of like a raw number. So some guys like him may have been dropped in more. Like you said, Zay Jones, he's like in the top, he's in the top 50 in terms of people. He's actually tied with Tim Patrick, which I think is strange. But yeah, you're right. That contract is egregious, but I just don't think he wasn't like 100% owned.
Yeah, see, I was thinking he was pretty high owned towards the end of the year, but people probably did drop him and stuff like that because he had a couple good games for the Raiders towards the end of the season, so I was kind of thinking that.
Yeah, so, but I mean, that's really interesting. I just thought that was kind of an interesting list that Tim presented. I mean, everybody gets Christian Kirk. That was kind of what I almost thought, but I had done I had a little advantage because I had done a little bit of research for an article on Monday. And so I'd seen Christian Kirk's percentage. So I knew it hadn't dropped as far as I thought it would.
What is his percentage at? I haven't even looked.
Like right now, I could look it up right now, but I want to say when I looked it up, it was in the 40s. And so I was shocked.
How?
Exactly. I was shocked. I didn't think he would be that high. But remember, people could have dropped him and then picked him up. So, this is people dropped him. In some league, somebody could have dropped him. Somebody could have swooped in and been like, I'll take Christian Kirk for that amount of money. I got to look at I got to look at a different league because he's actually owned in the league I looked at in. So I'm just kind of scrumming around the free agent auction and seeing if he's available.
And I'm by no means a Christian Kirk hater. Like, I like the talent that he has, especially out of the slot, but my lord, at that price, he has to completely annihilate what he's been doing in Arizona to make sense at that
Oh
price.
yeah, he has to be a top 10 wide receiver.
Yeah.
He's a top 10 paid wide receiver. He is at okay. You see if you can guess the percentage. I gave you a slight hint when I said I was in like the 40s and stuff before this. That was a couple days ago.
I mean, the highest I would have guessed would have been 35%, and that's still asinine to me.
48.
Holy cow! That means half a dynasty owner has found a way to fit him under. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, yeah.
I
No,
just
I agree.
I
I
can't
agree.
justify it in my head. I just cannot do it.
No, I can't either. I mean, I was very surprised. I was very surprised
And I mean,
at that.
we could eat our words on this. He could come out and tear it up with Trevor Lawrence, but it's so unlikely to happen. I can't gamble on it. I can't do it.
No, I equated it to Kenny Galladay last year,
Yeah.
which was, he a move from a move to a team with not a great quarterback situation for $18 million, which was a contract that like I can't imagine any other team other than Jacksonville was thinking to themselves, you know what we need to pay Christian Kirk? We need to pay him $72 million. I
Right.
mean, Spot Track, when I was looking at those market values, his market value was pretty much identical, almost identical to Michael Gallup
Yep.
and DJ Chark. I mean, Michael Gallup got a 5-year deal, but $11.5 million a year, so he got the extra year. I mean, DJ Chark took $1 million for 10 million for 1 year with Detroit, and then Christian Kirk got $6.5 million more than Michael Gallup a year. I mean, Gallup got an extra year, but it blows you out of the water the
Yeah.
amount. I mean, and that was the same thing last year with Kenny Galladay. I mean, like he was around and everybody's like, oh, he'll get like this amount, and he got what he got, and people were like, who the hell's paying him that kind of money?
Right. Yeah, I was expecting him to get the 12 million,
Yeah,
last year, not
exactly. I
18
mean,
from it's just and then he didn't even score a touchdown last year. It was a hideous contract and it'll probably I mean, they got Brian DeBoll, but I don't see him making much of a difference. I was high on Daniel Jones. I was wrong on him. But I just don't think he has it at this point.
no, I don't think. No, I agree. I haven't been on Daniel Jones at all in anything. I mean, I never was even tempted to take him even in Dynasty under at his salary.
Yeah, he had that good rookie year, and I kind of overhyped it a little bit, and thought he was going to turn it into something better than he did. It's been
Yeah.
ugly since then.
A friend of mine from New York, not a Giant fan but a Jet fan, he called him Dave Brown 2.0 when they drafted him. Because he's from Duke,
Yeah,
he was some kind of quarterback from Duke that the Giants thought would be great and took in the first round, and Dave Brown was nothing.
yeah. It
So
was it was that Manning connection that got him into the first round. I'm pretty sure that's what did it for him.
probably, but yeah. But there's always one, and so we'll see. I mean, that's the thing. Just like in Dynasty Owner, you only need one team in your league to want him to
Yep.
pick up that salary, and just like the NFL, I mean, if one team's going to give you $18 million a year, those guys they're gonna take it. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't need, Jacksonville probably got into a bidding war with themselves effectively.
Yeah, they had to of it. Like you said, I don't see anybody else paying them outside of like 12 to 13 million tops. So yeah, I think they just paid the they're not a premier free agent spot, so they got to pay a little extra, I guess, to get people, and that was evident with Christian Kirk and Zay Jones.
Yeah. No, and I mean, and Evan Engram. I mean, they paid him $9 million a
Yeah,
year. How
yeah,
did that guy get a $3 million salary increase after doing pretty much nothing for 5 years in New York?
yeah. He was hurt the whole time. It seemed like
Yeah,
he was
he was
never on the
hurt.
field, and when he
And
did, he didn't produce.
yeah, I mean, part of it is he hasn't exactly had the greatest quarterbacks on the earth, but I mean, Trevor Lawrence should be better this year, but it's not like he's Hayden Hurst and moving to Cincinnati,
Right.
and have Joe Burrow as your quarterback. I mean, Trevor Lawrence maybe, but I don't see that $9 million either. That's another crazy one to me. But
Yeah.
actually, I wonder where he is on this list because I would have dropped. I mean, I never would have had him, but I would have dropped him in a heartbeat if I had him. And I don't see, yeah, I mean, he's like in the top 50 barely
Wow.
in terms of drop. I mean, yeah. So
I guess, I mean, if 50% of the people are keeping Kirk at 18 million, I'm not very surprised by that now that I'm thinking about it. It's only a $9 million salary. How many years did he sign for? Was it 2 or
just
1?
one, just
1,
one.
okay.
Yeah. So
So yeah,
yeah,
you can get it's risk free for the most part. Yeah, so I guess I kind of understand that one after thinking it through. But man, Christian Kirk at 48%, I'm gonna have nightmares about that.
well, we'll see what happens. Like when I think it'll go. I mean, I think it might go down a little bit with rookie drafts.
Yeah, it
I
had.
mean,
Yeah.
but then you have to use an amnesty on him now at this
Yep.
point because his contract's kicked in. The 30-day free period is gone. So you have to. He's an amnesty because I mean, to drop him would be 25, just for people who don't know, 25% of his total contract amount, which is that $72 million. So it'd be $18 million dynasty dollars to drop him. And an amnesty provision only costs $5 million. So you just would use the amnesty provision
Yeah.
to save yourself. But yeah, I agree. I was kind of shocked, but we'll see what happens. Sometimes people aren't paying close attention. Some people do and some people don't in these leagues. So in our league, so you know, we'll see. We'll see. But I thought that was interesting. That was a little fun bit of information to have in terms
Yeah.
of like knowing how many people got dropped. But yeah, Taysom Hill. I mean, which makes sense. Let's face
It
it.
does. Yep. He was playing quarterback last year, and now he's obviously not gonna be. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
that
mean,
makes a
and
lot of sense.
I mean, if you think about in terms of tight ends, he's like a top 10 paid tight end for a guy who's kind of not played the position.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it's not like Tim Tebow with a you know $900,000 contract or whatever Urban Meyer gave him.
Yeah. Yeah, they
So
signed him. They signed him to that for his versatility, and we can't use versatility on dynasty owners, so it makes a lot of sense.
yeah, I mean, maybe he'll throw a touch. Maybe he'll throw
Yeah.
a wacky touchdown pass every once in a while, or run a little bit and catch a couple of passes. But he's not doing $10 million
No, not at all.
worth of production. I mean, if you think about it, for like just under $1 million more, you could have Dalton Schultz, Mike Gesicki. For a little bit less, you could have Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. Yep.
I
Darren
mean,
Waller.
exactly. Yeah, Darren Waller. I mean, for just over 10 million, 10.5 million, you could have Zach Ertz for 3 years as opposed to 4 years of Taysom Hill. So,
Yep.
I mean, yeah, I don't see why anybody didn't do it. But speaking of Taysom Hill, so we'll kind of we'll talk about Taysom Hill a little bit and move into Jay's section, which we'll talk about rebuilding. But why I want to mention Taysom Hill is because I stupidly forgot to drop him in my podcast league that I'm rebuilding, that you're helping me rebuild. But I should have dropped him beforehand, because what I had to do was I ended up dropping him to make room for somebody who was dropped by one of the commissioners, because one of the teams in my league didn't get under. So I was able to pick up Michael Gallup on that podcast league team.
Wow.
Because the commissioners dropped him from somebody's roster, and I saw that and love Michael Gallup at 11.5 million.
Yeah,
I
that's
love him. So and then I didn't have room, and I looked, and I still had Taysom Hill sitting there, and then cursed myself a little bit, used my amnesty provision, dropped Taysom Hill, and then picked up Michael Gallup. So I'm happy with that. I feel like for that team, I only had a couple of building blocks, but Michael Gallup is a building block.
Oh yeah, especially at that contract. You got him locked in with Dak Prescott for pretty much his whole contract. You know what he's been able to do in that offense. It's not like he's switching to a new team. So
Yeah.
you know what you're getting out of him, and he's relatively cheap compared to what everybody else is getting. And contracts are only going to go up over the next few years. So I personally, as a rebuilding player, I love rebuilding. Michael Gallup is one of my favorite contracts to target right now, just because he's locked down for so long at such a cheap price.
Yeah, I was very happy. I was very surprised and very happy to get him in that. So that's the only thing I've been able to do in that league. I was supposed to get rid of Taysom Hill beforehand. You know what happened in that league? I made the typical mistake, was that I dropped under the cap and then forgot that and there were other guys I was going to drop, and I forgot that I hadn't dropped them. And I kept looking at that team, and I was like, oh, I'm under the cap, I'm fine. I'm under the cap, I'm fine. And then when the Gallup thing came up, I looked at a team, and I was like, okay, I got to figure out who to drop. And I looked, and I was like, why do I still have Taysom Hill? Like, oh man. And then I clicked the drop button, praying that maybe it was still free. And it was like, nope, you have to pay. I was like, oh, curse, and then
Yeah, that sucks.
yeah, but it worked out. I got Michael Gallup, so I mean, there goes my amnesty provision for the year, but it was totally worth it. So, but we'll see. But so speaking of rebuilding, you got any pearls of wisdom for us on rebuilding this week? Anything you've been looking at, thinking about, sort of?
I do have my beta league team. I want to kind of talk about what I did and everything. I'm going to do an article on it yet still. It wasn't a whole lot. I do still have some moves to make here. I have a pending trade offer for the number 7 pick in the first round. He wants to give me the 2-5 and the 2-6 for the 1-7, which I'm considering doing. I usually hate doing that, but just the way the roster looks, that gives me an extra space, an extra roster spot essentially, because draft picks count as players. The players are going to be a lot cheaper in the
Yeah,
second round. So what I ended up doing here, this is the team that me and Steve have talked about. I've got Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Brady and Carr, Waller, so they're eating up a ton of salary cap space. So I ended up just dropping MVS and Deontay Hardy, and I picked up Isaiah McKenzie. I was pretty shocked he was still there actually at 2.2
yeah.
million. He's a pretty good gamble that I like to take. Love taking a chance on him this year. So I picked him up for Deontay Hardy, and it got me just under the cap. I'm sitting at where's it at here? 144.3. So I still got to find a way to get that the 1-7 pick in there, or if I do this trade, the 2 seconds in there under the cap, and
Yeah.
I still have Rob Gronkowski who hasn't signed yet. So
Oh, yeah.
if he signs for less than 8 million, I'm golden. But if he signs for more than 8 million, I'm in a world of trouble here, and I'm gonna have to do some trades to get a backup tight end and things like that. Because right now my tight ends are just Darren Waller and Rob Gronkowski. I have one on the bench, Jawan Johnson. I I don't like him. I think Adam Troutman will probably be the guy down in New Orleans moving forward.
Don't
But
forget
James,
Taysom Hill.
but Jameis did seem to like Jawan Johnson last year, so I'll probably hold on to him. He's very cheap. He's like 800,000 or something like that. And
Yeah,
then so now,
he's worth a stash, because I mean, you're not going to get anything for him. So
right, and so the real question here, what to do is how do I fit this 1-7 under without cutting DJ Chark or something like that? And I'm
mm.
to be honest, I'm not too sure. I know I can drop Rashad Higgins, but I have to, when I'm dropping these people, I have to pick somebody back up because I'm so low on players.
Oh, you're at the minimum on
I'm at
players.
24 players in one pick. So I'm at the absolute minimum. This team's been very tough to figure out. It's that Devonta Adams contract killed me, and then I got Tyreek Hill to worry about next year.
Mm.
Um, so what happened was I had quarterbacks. I had Deshaun Watson, and I had to drop him obviously last year. And was going to pick him back up in the 46 million. I just couldn't do it, and I had already picked Brady up after he unretired. So I was looking for a second quarterback. There was obviously no cheap ones. I tried trading for Tua. It didn't work out. The guy wanted a little more than I wanted to pay for Tua. I'm not big on Tua. And I had to pick up Derek Carr and make it work. So we're going to pray nobody gets hurt this year and kind of roll with it. And see what happens. I'm definitely going to make some moves when the 25 picks come out, and we'll see what goes from there. But that's kind of the update I got on this team for now.
Okay. Well, the thing I would say is, I guess so. Your options. It sounds like we're hearing your options are basically: do you keep the 1-7 in Higgins, or do you turn that into two mid-range? I forget the numbers, but the mid-range second rounders.
Yeah, that's fifth
Which
and the sixth.
what's most likely to produce for you? The problem is that your 1-7 pick, you can't really spend more than 1.4 million. So you're talking about a mid second round pick, basically.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, I mean, if one of the good running backs drops to the middle of the second round, you might be able to do that. But you're not getting you're not getting any of the top flight wide receivers, and you're not getting, unless one of the quarterbacks drops and you really like them, you're not getting a quarterback to replace, Carr or Brady.
Yeah, and I'm not too sure. I thought about just staying at 1-7, drafting a quarterback and dropping Carr because there's no way I'm going to afford him next year. I trust Brady; he's never hurt. I think I said this last week, but
Yeah.
that's the only thing I can really think to do to create a lot of cap space that makes a lot of sense, other than trying to trade Tyreek Hill.
but then you're hurting. I mean, the thing you're hurting yourself for this year if
Yeah,
you want
yeah,
to try to do anything this year.
yep.
So yeah, that's a tough spot. I mean, but that's what happened. That's what I mean. This doesn't happen in a regular dynasty league. You would never have to make that kind of
No, not
decision
at all.
in a regular dynasty league. You just be like, I'm keeping Deshaun Watson. You just kind of, I'm sure in most dynasty leagues, people just hung on to him because it was costless. I mean, sure you didn't get him to play last year, but if you thought he was going to play eventually, you kept him.
Yeah, I have a super flex league I'm in. I got Josh Allen and Deshaun Watson as my quarterback. So going into last year, it sucked because I had two of the top quarterbacks, and it's like, well, Deshaun Watson's not playing, so everybody's trying to get him cheap off me, trade him for Jalen Hurts or whatever, and I just didn't do it. I was like, come 2023, I know I'm going to be competing because I got the best two quarterbacks pretty much in the league. I have the best quarterback duo in the league by far. So
Mhm.
I'm not moving them for that, especially for that. But in Dynasty owner, you don't have a choice. At 39 million, I think he was last year, or something like that. Or
Oh yeah.
you have to drop him if you want a chance at winning. You have to.
Well, if you think about it this year, our salary cap is 145.74. If you had Josh Allen and Deshaun Watson, that would be $89 million.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Just
that's like
not
60%
possible.
of your cap
Yeah,
on two players.
you better have Bryce's draft in 2023 for the rest of your roster to fit Deshaun Watson and Josh Allen, and it's got to be all rookies pretty much.
Yeah, or you basically have had to like catch every break. You'd have to have like Elijah Mitchell and Cam Akers. I mean, you can't have anybody making any kind of money
Yeah,
pretty much anywhere else, really. I mean, you need all $2-3 million guys, or you need like last year, you would have needed like the Jacoby Myers making $588,000 and and really good. I mean, you would have needed Mark Andrews, at 800,000. You would need like Andrews and Dalton Schultz, but then you'd have to have gotten rid of both of them
yeah, yeah.
to keep Allen. If you think about it, if you had Schultz, Allen, and Deshaun Watson, that's 100 million. So then you have $45 million left to sign 22 players. And 2 million
Yeah,
ain't getting you, 2 million doesn't get you a lot in the NFL now.
no, not at all, not at all.
So,
Even
but
the decent rookies are over $2 million. So it's yeah, like you said, you're gonna have to nail every undrafted free agent gem and all that stuff.
yeah, I mean, every you're gonna have to take a lot of dart throws and hit a lot of dart throws.
Yeah,
And that's not. I mean, they're dart throws for a reason because you don't hit them very often. You
right.
might hit one. You might hit one every once in a while, and then you're happy. So, well, interesting. Well, so we'll have to talk more. We'll have to do more rebuilding if you're going to talk about what your article next week is going to be in this team.
Yeah, I wanted to cover this team and just kind of to give everybody just a look at how difficult it is to maintain a roster of top level players. This is in the beta league, so this team's been together a while. But coming up, I got a Josh Jacobs contract, a Jonathan Taylor contract. Tyreek Hill's about to go up. There's no way Las Vegas doesn't pay Darren Waller more. So I have to blow this team up after this season. And like you said, it's just something you don't find in other dynasty leagues, and it's what makes dynasty owners so fun. And I kind of want to highlight that in an article for everybody.
Yeah, because usually we talk about rebuilding, and it's usually they're terrible teams.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, like my team in that podcast league is not well, it's kind of terrible, but I mean, I have Patrick Mahomes and now I have Michael Gallup. I have a couple of guys, but my roster on that league is littered with like the Salvin Ahmads and the Tony Joneses, and I mean, the Zach Pascals of the world, because that's what I had. I mean, and I drafted badly, and I didn't. I don't know if I want to say I drafted badly. I thought I drafted pretty well. I mean, but in that league, my top four picks 2 years ago were Patrick Mahomes. He was $4 million. Michael Thomas, who was coming off being the wide receiver one the previous year and was 19 million. Kenny Golladay, who was making under $1 million, and Devin Singletary, who was making under $1 million. So I thought those four guys would be pretty good. I was paying one of them, but I thought I'd hang on to. I thought that could be like a core for like a couple of years, and it just went. I mean, not the only one I have. I still have Singletary, but I can't get rid of him. I'm rebuilding, and I have Mahomes for 45 million. Thomas, I got rid of. I just couldn't afford him. And Galladay I got rid of the second he got $18 million from the Giants. I didn't want that. So, I mean, it's hard. It's like the
It
it's like
is.
the real NFL. You can't, I mean, teams aren't staying together. I mean, the Tampa Bay keeping all 22 players from the Super Bowl year to last year was the anomaly of anomalies.
Yeah.
That never happening anymore. I
No, not at
mean,
all. And it's so tough to do, like you said, if Kenny Galladay was 800,000 and he jumps up to 18 million to a new team, and you never could have predicted that. I mean, you knew he was going to get a new deal, but you could have never predicted how bad it was going to be with the Giants, things like that. Or Michael Thomas just completely falling off. Just
yeah.
it was just a bad luck draft, is what I would call it for you, honestly. You found a string of bad luck there.
Yeah, but I mean, when you find a string of bad luck with your 2, 3, 4 picks,
Yes,
it's
yeah,
harder to.
it's gonna
Yeah,
devastate your team. Yeah,
exactly.
100%.
Especially you can overcome it a little bit better if those picks are cheaper. But the Thomas pick really hurt because
Yeah,
I spent a lot of money on him, and he did nothing for me. I mean, for him, I got 0 points. He just never played for me.
right.
I
Yeah,
mean,
and it cost you 20 million.
exactly. I got $20 million of nothing. So yeah, I mean, and that's devastating. That's like NFL teams. They talk about you can have you need to be a great team. You need to hit on like the 6th round, 5th round, 4th round picks, whatever position they play and stuff like that. You need some of those guys, obviously, but you have to hit on your 1st round picks
Yeah,
too. You can't draft a stiff every year in the 1st round and expect to be a good team.
and that you hit the nail on the head there. To build any type of powerhouse dynasty type thing on this platform, you have to nail your draft picks. You have to. Everybody every year, some players on your roster are getting new contracts and getting paid more. So you have to hit your draft picks. You have to have them rookie contracts on there to be successful in this platform.
Yeah, I mean, and there's churn and there's churn and everything, but you have to kind of make the right kind of churn. You have to figure out, okay, what player getting a new contract is worth it, and what player getting a new contract isn't worth it,
Yep.
and who am I backfilling that play? So if that player is one of my starters or even a bench guy, who am I backfilling that with? Who do I have on my practice squad to backfill that with, or who can I draft to backfill that with? Because at a certain point, you get to you don't have a guy to backfill it anymore, and then you're starting somebody who shouldn't be starting.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it interesting. I mean, you think about it, in the NFL nowadays, even the dynasties end at a certain point. I mean, they can prolong them a year or two with funny salary cap movements and signing bonuses and play and everything like that. But at a certain point, the dream dies. It ends for everybody. I mean, the Patriots had it end. I mean, the Rams, this iteration of the Rams is going to end, at a certain point. I mean, they just can't keep trading first draft picks away and, not paying a price for it at a certain point.
Yeah, when it crashes and burns, it's going to crash and burn hard out there for the Rams. I've never seen anything like it. I'm glad it worked out for them, because that would have been terrible for that fan base, because they're probably going to go through 5 to 8 years of just terribleness after trading all these draft picks, and I can't see it working out well in the future, is what I'm trying to say there. And I'm just glad they got a world title out of it, especially after the move to Los Angeles. It kind of legitimizes them there and things like that.
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, they had to. You're right. They had to. I mean, think about like a Carolina who, like, when they started off, what was they, 3-0 or 4-0 at the beginning of the year?
Yeah.
And they started making a couple of moves. They traded for, I can't remember the cornerback for Jacksonville that they traded for, but
AJ Bowie.
Okay, I can't remember, but they traded they traded picks for him, and they got him, and then they traded with the Patriots for Stephon Gilmore, and they made a couple of other things, and then McCaffrey goes down, and then Darnold becomes Sam Darnold again, and I mean, they finished 5-12, I think, and they have the 6th pick now, and they lost a lot by thinking that they had a team to do something with, and I mean, and they traded away. I forget what they traded away to the Patriots to get Gilmore, but they don't even have Gilmore anymore.
Right. Yeah, he
He's
would
on.
just signed with the Colts.
Yeah, he just signed with the Colts, so it was a 1 year. It was a 1 year thing. They got nothing from it, and they probably gave, even if they gave up like fourth or fifth round pick, it's better than, I mean, they'd rather have that fourth or fifth round pick now
Yeah,
this
yeah.
year than Stephon Gilmore playing for the Colts.
Yeah, they pick number 6, and they don't pick again to, like, 147 or something like that. It's and
Oh, so those are all the picks they gave away.
yeah, and
Yeah.
on a bad roster, that's terrible. You really, really need them 2nd, 3rd round picks to build up your depth and things. It's an ugly situation down there.
I didn't realize they had like nothing there.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, so they basically get one pick and then they can take the rest of that night and the whole next day. They can take the whole
Pretty
second round
much,
of the
yeah.
day 2 of the draft off.
Yeah.
When they go to the table for the Panthers, it's going to be the two guys are going to have their feet up having a beer, being there in case the fake phone rings for them or
Yep,
something
yep,
like that.
in case they got a trade call that they don't care about.
Exactly. They'll be at the bar. They'll be at the tables at the Bellagio gambling a little bit,
Just see him shooting pool and not even paying attention.
Yeah, exactly. They'll be on the gondola ride. They'll be on the gondola ride during the draft.
Oh, jeez.
Oh man. All right. Well, the last thing I think we should talk about, we have some trades. Again, if you want, we're going to do some trades. I like to do trades are fun to do. It's always, and our trades are interesting because you have to, they're like the old school NBA trades. You have to balance out the salary cap. So if you want us to look at a trade, Twitter's the best way. If you do the hashtag DO trades, we'll find them and maybe talk about them next week or in future weeks. So, but we've got two of our kind of usual guys who trade a lot. The first one I picked up off of Twitter was for the Human Fund, and he traded with JK's team. And JK's team received Melvin Gordon, who's still a free agent at $8 million, Chris Godwin, and Brandon Ayuk. And the Human Fund receives DeAndre Hopkins at $27 million and Jalen Waddle at $6.7 million. So the Human Fund added about $3 million in contracts, and the JK's team saved about $3 million in contracts. What are we thinking about this one?
Can you say the JK's team, what he got
Oh,
again?
sure. He got Melvin Gordon, Chris Godwin, and Brandon Ayuk for DeAndre Hopkins and Jalen Waddle.
I gotta go with the Waddle side just because I like Waddle.
Okay.
In trades, I tend to go with the best player there. You know what I mean? And it's Waddle. You still got him for another 3 years under his rookie deal. I think Tyreek Hill actually is going to open up things a little more for him. He's not gonna get the sole focus of the defense every week now. So I think I got to go with the Waddle side there, just by a little bit. It's close.
Yeah, I wonder what Chris, the Human Fund, is going to do with DeAndre Hopkins. Is he going to keep him, or is that a get rid of him situation? But I think it's honestly a good trade for both teams.
Yeah,
I don't mind JK's team because they saved $3 million. They're likely to save more because I can't see Melvin Gordon getting an $8 million contract.
Yeah.
So in theory, they should be saving a little bit more. And they arguably got the second best player in that deal in Chris Godwin. He's more, but and they're tied for the same number of years. But I don't hate this trade for either. I don't hate this trade for either side.
No, me neither. Not at all. It's a very close trade. I like Waddle a little bit more than anybody else in the trade, so I think that gives him a little bit of an edge, but not much.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, it's if you like Waddle, I don't like the Dolphins because I'm a Patriots fan. So, but I mean, and I honestly, it's not that I just dislike the Dolphins. I don't think Tua's the quarterback that you throw like a bunch of receivers around and he's just gonna fling it all over the place. I mean, if that was a Justin Herbert or Patrick Mahomes or Josh, I mean, somebody like that, I'd be more bullish on this, but I just don't think Tua's going to sling it around 40 times a game and complete 30 passes to those guys. I just don't see it. So, but we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that offense plays out. It really will.
it'll be interesting. I mean, that is probably going to be a different type of offense with
Yeah,
the coach. So, but so Waddle might get carries.
yeah,
He might
yeah,
be Debo Samuel and get carries and make that amazing. But yeah, I don't really want to trust Tua to get the ball to get the ball to those guys. That's the
yeah,
one thing with wide receivers is I know sometimes they can overcome bad quarterback play, but there's times when if they don't get the ball, they don't get the ball. I mean,
yeah,
mm, it's kind of hard. It's a lot easier for them to throw down a zero in a week. No catches, no yards than like a running back. A running back's at least going to get you a couple points.
yeah, yeah.
But okay, so all right, so that one it's about even. So the second one, we've got two from our champ last year, our Chase the Ring champion, who, if you're not familiar, that's the champion of all champions in Dynasty Owner. It is the league champion who finished the year with the most points, and so he wins basically a Super Bowl ring, and that's Jeff. And Jeff has couple leagues, but in one league, he made a trade where he gave up. He's giving up Auden Tate, J.D. McKissick, and Debo Samuel for Cam Akers, Darnell Mooney, and Darrell Henderson. And he is Gold Vikings is his team. They're saving about $3 million, and the Hounds is the other team. They're adding about $3 million. And so, what do you think, Jay?
I mean, clearly Debo's probably the best player in the trade, but he's looking at a massive new deal on a new team. There's a lot of uncertainty there, so I think I got to go with Jeff's side there. He's getting the guaranteed Rams backfield and Akers and Henderson. And I think people are sleeping on Mooney with Justin Fields. Justin Fields is an excellent deep ball thrower, and that's exactly what Darnell Mooney does. I mean, he's turning into more of a number one who can do all sorts of things, but his specialty is deep balls, and that's what Justin Fields does well. They showed a connection last year. So yeah, I think Jeff ended up winning this deal by a little bit. It's not an egregious trade by any means, but as far as the savings he's going to get on Debo and Darnell Mooney's an $800,000 receiver, so it's as far as the value and the savings and things, Jeff definitely got this one.
Yeah, I think Jeff gets this one definitely. And I mean, he really gets it if Debo gets a contract. If somebody trades for Debo and gives him a new contract this year, then he really wins that because he'll have shed Debo. He'll have shed Debo and that big contract. I mean, because Debo's only got 1 year left at $1.8 million. At least he's the guys Jeff's taking on, except for Darrell Henderson, who's depth. I mean, he's basically your handcuff to Cam
Yeah.
Akers. I mean, both Akers and Mooney are there for 2 years, so you got 2 years of those guys. And I can't imagine Akers or Darnell Mooney's agitating for a new contract right now like Debo is.
No, not at all. They don't have that kind of level to them yet.
No. So, okay, but we'll see. I mean, maybe the Hounds just really wanted Debo, and it's also. I mean, these guys make threats for asking for a trade, and saying they're going to sit out training camp. I remember Dalvin Cook 2 years ago. He was going to sit out training camp. Going to sit out training camp. Going to sit out training camp. Training camp came, and he showed up.
Yep.
And he got a contract later on, but he didn't get no contract at the beginning of training camp, and he showed up.
Right. Yeah.
So these things can get smoothed over.
Yeah, it could also be a Le'Veon Bell situation too. So it really depends on the player at that point. But Debo has carried himself with class the entire time he's been in the NFL. I just don't see him making a huge stink out of it. Especially if they're now that he's offered the trade. I think this is as bad as it's going to get. Honestly, I see him even if he's still on the roster. I see him showing up for training camp and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, didn't Le'Veon? He did that. Did he set out the last year's contract? I'm trying to remember that situation. You know better than I would.
Yeah, I believe it was they were trying to franchise tag him, I think, and he just sat out. Or maybe it was, yeah, it was the last year of his contract. He wanted a new contract before he got franchise tagged, so he sat out, and then it ended up signing with the Jets after that. After the year he sat out.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Interesting. That
the
didn't
rest
work
is
out
history.
that
No,
did not work out
at
for
all.
him, so I don't think I'd want to be following in those footsteps.
No, me neither. But you look at Jamar Chase, who took an entire year off and came in as a rookie and just dominated. So it can happen at complete opposite ends of the spectrum. It just depends on the player.
That is true. That is true. All right, and then we've got another trade for Jeff, and this one's Jeff's. I will guess on this one, but I'm going to assume I think Jeff's off of Deebo Samuel this year because he traded Deebo Samuel in another league in his $1.8 million contract, and he traded 2022 second round pick, which is the number 4 pick, and a 2024 third round pick for Stephon Diggs and a 2024 second round pick and a 2022 second round pick, which is the 11. So Jeff dropped back 7 spots and got Stephon Diggs, 7 spots in the second round, and the other team got Deebo Samuel. But the other team also saved about $12.5 million in salary cap.
But the salary cap's going to go up as soon as Deebo signs a new deal. So
True.
essentially, Jeff's probably getting the savings there. I mean, not technically right now he's not, but Deebo is going to get a new deal at some point, especially if he's traded. I think it happens this year.
Yeah, and he knows what Diggs is getting his new deal too. I don't know how we're going to handle it because it's technically not signing. It's not the way I've read it is that it doesn't kick until 2024.
Okay.
So if Stephon Diggs keeps his $14.4 million next year, then Jeff knows what his contract is after that. So you've got a lot of stability, so to speak, or at least what's going on. Whereas with Deebo, you're kind of fumbling around in the dark. You don't know what, he could get 25 million, he could get 30 million. You kind of don't know.
Yeah. So I'm going to call this trade a complete wash. I like both sides of it. If I had to choose, I think I'd probably go the Deebo side just because he's a little younger, and yes, there's a little unknown with him, but that's all right. I'm willing to take that risk on young players. He's proven he's extremely talented. Whoever's going to trade for him is going to make him a huge part of their offense. Just the age, I guess. It depends on what kind of roster you have. If you're going for a championship, you probably want the safer bet in Diggs. But if you need to, if you want to gamble a little bit, the play's definitely Deebo there.
Yeah, I don't think any of these teams are rebuilding, at least this one, because I don't think there's no reason to trade for. If you're rebuilding, there's no reason to trade for Deebo.
No, and it's really just depends if you want to be a little more riskier, if you need a safe option on your roster. If you need the safer option, go with Diggs. If you can afford to be a little risky, go with Deebo.
Yeah, I agree. I think personally, I think in our league, I'd rather be stable. I'd rather know at certain points what I'm getting into. That's not to say that those contracts don't get ripped up. I mean, Deshaun Watson's got ripped up, but that's more rare that completely the contract just comes completely ripped up and replaced. Usually they just tack on the extension and then you kind of know what you're going to get next year. I mean, and if Stephon Diggs isn't worth 24 million in 2 years when that contract kicks in, when the contract changes, he just drops them and moves on, or trades them and moves on. But I think I think 14.4 million for Stephon Diggs is a bargain the way wide receiver contracts are going. I mean, shoot. So, but you're right. if you're swinging for the fences, Deebo's probably the way to go.
That, and if you need a longer term, maybe you're sitting on a roster with a couple older guys and you need a younger guy to kind of take over as the years go on, then Deebo makes a little more sense than Diggs. So really, it just depends on what your roster looks like on this trade.
Yeah, well, and what the salaries say here is that the team that got Deebo in the draft dodgers, their salary cap will only be 114 million.
Oh, they're fine.
They could afford. Yeah, they can afford Deebo even if he gets if somebody trades for him, rips it up, and gives him $25 million a year, they can keep Deebo for that.
Yeah, yep.
So, yeah.
I love the deal for both of them. I really do. I think it makes perfect sense for both of them, especially after hearing his salary cap with the Deebo owner. It's great trade. Both the trades Jeff made today were excellent for both sides of the deal, honestly.
Jay came back from vacation in a very good mood. He's praising everybody.
Hey, vacations will do that to you.
Exactly. All right. Well, I think it's time to wrap up. We've been at this a little over an hour. I think do you have anything else you wanted to talk about today, Jay? Or
No, I think that's it. Just getting ready for the draft. Really starting to dig into these new prospects and things like that. Right after the draft is when I really, really start digging into them. But right now is when I start kind of previewing the probably top 20, 25 players and just seeing what they look like and just getting prepared for the next steps of dynasty owner.
exactly. So yeah. So if you want to remember, if you want to join, if you're a dynasty owner now, you can pick up another team if you want, or if you're not a dynasty owner, you can go to dynastyowner.com, create an account. You can also do the first round draft pick challenge. If you pick a perfect first round, you could win $1 million. And if you have the best first round, which Jay and I both think is going to be literally like 10 picks, maybe 12, you might win some cash. I'm not sure what the cash is, but I'm sure you're going to win some cash. So check it out. Dynasty_owner on Twitter. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. You can follow our YouTube page as well. Check out some live streams that we do Wednesdays at 4. And you can follow me. I am at SteveVT33 on Twitter. And you can follow Jay
At J Pounds NFL. It's JAY Pounds NFL.
Okay. Great. So we will be back next week. I think we'll probably end up recording it before the draft and then it'll premiere after the draft. So I don't know if we should make some bold draft select picks and
Yeah, we can
then
do that.
listen and then have people listen to it and realize how terrible they were. Maybe we'll go over our first, you know what? Maybe we should, but I'm going to do the first round draft pick challenge. Obviously I haven't made my picks yet, except for the first one. So maybe we'll go through some of our picks and see
Yeah, we can do that.
how far we get. Then people can listen the next morning and realize that like I was off my tree at the pick number 6 or something. So we'll see, but should be interesting. But we'll have some other stuff. We're going to talk about maybe doing some mock. We got to start doing some mock draft once players are in the pool and their salaries are known. We got to start doing some mock drafts and some rookie drafts and talking about all that. So we got a lot coming up in the next couple of weeks, Jay. Good thing you're rested up from vacation.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'll be ready to go. Start my new job and everything, so I'll be good to go here soon.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks a bunch. Thanks for listening, everybody. Remember to I don't know if you can like the podcast or anything like that, but subscribe to our podcast, become a member, join Dynasty Owner. It's great. It's a lot of fun, and we'll hope you listen in next week. Thanks.
Have a good one, guys.